What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Life of Mike. It's been way too long since our last build series, so you know what? I had to pick up a new bike. Now, as much as I love my Kawasaki, I just couldn't pass up the opportunity to work on this Honda CBR 600RR. Now, as you can see, this bike is pretty much in shambles right now. It's got a missing handlebar on the left side, missing clip-on. The fairings are, well, not on the bike. This fuel tank was actually a replacement for the original fuel tank, which is rusted out and pitted extremely bad, lots of holes in it. We've got a broken fairing stay here, a little bit of rash on the gauge cluster, rash here on the master cylinder, and the starter button sticks. The switch itself is broken, so the owner was actually really nice. He showed me that the bike runs, which is awesome, by jumping the starter solenoid over here. And so the bike does run. It idles. We went through all the gears. We put the bike up on a stand, went through all the gears to make sure the transmission's good. The throttle's very sticky, so turning that, it takes a lot of effort. So pretty much I'm gonna be pulling off the clip-ons on both sides, probably getting a new matching set and a new throttle assembly here, probably a new set of levers, just right out of the gate. Definitely gonna need that. The fork seals are absolutely destroyed. You can see these are probably from 15 years ago. The weight of the bike seems like it wants to just crush the seals there. We've got the off-road special edition, apparently, with all the dirt and gravel in here, so I'll be digging this out. Didn't see any serious leaks. There's a little bit of rust staining here. This should come out. Something I'm not too excited about is where the spools were mounted. You can see that the swing arm actually bent and cracked just ever so slightly, so I will probably be replacing the swing arm. I would think somebody else could probably find use for this old one, so I will be listing this for sale. I don't know if this is algae or what, but it does wipe off. You can see I was able to just start rubbing some of it off. It's got a Yoshi, I think it's an RS5 slip-on. I don't know if it's a full system or a slip-on, but it's got a Yoshimura system. And you can see the battery tray is cracked and broken in several places. The spool on this side is pretty well destroyed. You can see it went down pretty good. The chain and sprockets are going to be replaced. That's a given. The rear set on the passenger side. The rear set on the left side will definitely be replaced. Looks like it's been down on both sides. I need to look up the stock wiring diagram to figure out where some of these go. I'm pretty sure there's a spot this is supposed to clip into. I'm sure it's somewhere in here. It may have come off during the accident, so I've got to do a little bit of hunting to find out where these attach. So this is going to be an easy fix. Just like the RC51 build, this is a two-piece setup. This pops off. Nice little spider hanging out in there, and pretty cheap to replace that. The front fender is cracked. Pretty much all the body panels are going to be swapped on this bike. The radiator looks to be okay. You've got, the paint on this is not holding up very well. Same with the paint on the triple trees. I don't think I'm going to repaint the triple trees. I'll probably just leave them there the way they are. But the typical cleanup is definitely in order. So I'm going to try to bend back the spools so I can get this thing up on a stand and start cleaning it. All right, I was able to get the spool on the left side to bend back into place so that I could hopefully get this thing up on a rear stand. But this side pretty much just snapped off. So yeah, pretty positive I'm gonna be swapping out the swing arm here. Now I just gotta get a little creative with how I'm going to jack up the bike. My stand that I have relies on the spools. I don't have the attachments for underneath the swing arm, so might be time to invest in those attachments. So I was able to actually reverse my rear stand that I have so that the spool adapter is on the outside and there's just a shaft pointing inside. And I was able to use that to just place underneath the swing arm so I could get the wheel off the ground and I got my front stand on here as well. So I'm gonna start, we'll probably do a little time lapse just cleaning everything. I wanna get the dirt out of here. I'll probably pull off this frame slider. I'll clean the swing arm too, probably, just so it looks better, even though we're probably going to be pulling that swing arm off. I noticed that the front wheel does not wanna spin hardly at all. So that is probably because the pistons inside of this brake caliper are rusted or just seized up. So it could also be that I need to bleed the brake lines, but in this box of spare parts, which I'm not sure I've covered this yet, but the owner was nice enough to give me a box full of spare parts. Inside of this box of spare parts, there is, I believe, a set of brake calipers somewhere. I've got a few different parts in here to sift through, but that may help me out a little bit. Looks like I've got a few accessories here that might be useful. So anyhow, I think it's time to just start pulling off the fender and really start cleaning this thing. And hopefully I'll be able to start taking inventory of parts I need and get a few things on order tonight. So let's go to the time lapse. As you can see, it is pretty jacked up from the accident. So I will be ordering a new motor mount bolt, probably from Partzilla. So this is off the right side, and I've got a jack underneath the engine right now just to help support it. And we are now going to remove the engine mount bolt from the left side. And if we look from here, it actually doesn't look too bad. However, I don't like this scraped up frame slider anyways. And I believe these frame sliders require you to cut the fairings. I'm going to do no cut frame sliders or no frame sliders at all, just to help keep the look of the bike clean. And whoever the future owner is, they can add frame sliders if they want. But anyhow, let's go ahead and get this motor mount bolt out, and we'll start cleaning this side of the bike. All right, I've got the left motor mount bolt out, and as you can see, the bike is able to hold its own weight without sagging or dropping below the mount. So I've removed the stand from underneath it. I guess there's enough mounts back here that it can handle its own weight, so that's good. I'm going to get the new hardware on order. I'm not sure if there's a spacer or something in here. I was afraid to reuse the same hardware without looking at the diagram, because the slider does have the actual head of the bolt standing off to about here. So I was afraid that if I tightened the bolt all the way down here, I might bottom it out, because the other side has a nut, whereas this side is just tapped right into the engine casing itself. So there's probably some sort of a spacer or a spanner or something that sits in here that has the head of the bolt stand off a little bit. So I want to look at the diagram before I reinstall that hardware. Plus we have to torque it down to spec. So now that I've got those out of the way, I'm going to start cleaning this side of the bike. As you can see, it's pretty messy. So hopefully I can clean it up just a little bit. So my buddy Christian arrived just in time with the goods.
Always.
All right, so we're going to now attempt to take the front fender off and remove the upper fairing stay. The gentleman I bought the bike from was nice enough to include a new fairing stay for this bike, so appreciate that. That'll save a little bit on the build cost. So let's go ahead and remove that fender and mount the fairing stay. All right, so we've got the new fairing stay mounted. We got the gauge cluster mounted as well. This gauge cluster is still going to come back off here once I get the new cover panel piece, but for now I just got it mounted back up, and I was actually able to steal some rubber grommets from the broken one because the new one was missing a couple, so that worked out well. I got the front fender off. You can see some pitting here in the front forks, and you can really see that the fork seals are destroyed, so those are going to have to be fixed. But I think that's about as much as I'm going to get accomplished for tonight. So appreciate Christian coming out, bringing me some beer.
Yeah.
I think it's time for a little bit more beer, so catch you on the next episode.